All right, thank you all for coming in here today. The first session of the conference, right? It's everyone's first session. So I'm here introducing Pearson Constanino with Brown's Brewing Company. He's got extensive marketing background in the craft beer industry and television, and he also worked with Red Bull. And then we have Glenn Clark, who also happens to be my father. Has extensive background in marketing and branding with Crafting a Brand Co. And without further ado, I'll let them get started.
All right. Good. Can you guys hear me if I don't use the microphone?
Yep.
All right. So you guys remember this movie, right? Field of Dreams. If you build a brewery, people are going to come, right? It's just going to happen. Guaranteed. Just start it. Don't shake your head. Pretty sure people are going to come to your brewery, right? What happens after your grand opening? What happens 6 months later? What happens a year later? And there are 2 more breweries within a 3-mile radius. Marketing, which we're going to talk about today, ensures that they'll come back. So I know you all make awesome beer, but because you all make awesome beer, usually that's not a differentiator. You need to give people other reasons to come back. Marketing is how you tell that story. What is marketing? Let's start off with crowd participation. Anyone? When you think of marketing, what is marketing? Somebody's brave.
Branded.
Yes.
Yeah, brand awareness.
Brand awareness. All right. Who else? Shout it out.
Instagram.
Telling the story of your brand.
Advertising, storytelling. Yes,
Research.
yes.
Press.
Press. You're leading right into my next slide here. Let's walk through here. Let's walk through the grand opening of Bob's Brewery. All right? So Bob's opening a brewery. If Bob puts his grand opening logo on a sign and hangs it in a brewery, that's advertising. If Bob gets an elephant and he puts his sign on an elephant and he walks it down Main Street, that's promotion. If the elephant brazenly stomps through the flower garden in front of Town Hall and the media is there to take a picture, publicity, whoever just said that. And if the mayor, instead of getting angry, she laughs it off and she goes on TV with a sign and she says, you guys got to go to Bob's Brewery grand opening. Public relations. And if Bob sees all this buzz happening out there and he puts QR codes up around town and people go online and they buy tickets, we got sales. And marketing, if Bob deliberately, and I want to use that word, think about the word deliberately, think about making a plan. If he planned and orchestrated for all of that to happen, that's marketing. So all that stuff that you do to stay in front of your customers, think about marketing in two different levels. I want to think about marketing to somebody who's never been to your brewery before, and I want to think about marketing to people to get them to come back. So marketing to new customers, day-to-day execution of all that stuff to get people to notice you and become interested enough to check out your brewery. And then I want you to think about returning customers. After that first visit, you got to get them back. Right? That's really the most important part. You got to get them back. What good is a one-time customer? So marketing helps people remember you because there's so many other people out there competing for their attention. Helps you stay relevant, top of mind, and ensures people come back. And when we think about marketing, right, this makes my head spin a little bit. Right? All that stuff you can do. In another presentation, or if you want to call me afterwards, We can talk about the value of marketing plan, right? To take this whole list and figure out which of these make sense for you. We're not going to get into that today. Today I'm going to talk about 3 things. 3 marketing tactics every craft brewer should be executing in 2023. All right, these are 3 things that all of you should be doing, and you probably are doing them already. I want you to do them better. And I will talk to you about how to make, for starters, your email newsletter, how to make it work harder. How many people have an email newsletter? Wow, all right. You need more. Email newsletter. So I would suggest to you, this might be news, the most powerful digital marketing tool you have, I believe, is your email list. I think that is by far, start growing one if you don't have one, but if you have a direct pipeline to your best customers and you talk to them often, wow, what a difference that will make. We're going to take a poll here. Okay, get ready. How often you check your email? How many people check their email just, oh my God, there's somebody here. Who here checks their email just 1 time a day? What time, Chris?
First thing in the morning.
Nice, good for you, man. All right, okay. All right, I think some hands are going to go up here. Who limits themselves just to 2 times a day? Kristen, just twice a day, I believe that. But you text quite often, don't you?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Hands up, once an hour. Yeah, I'm thinking once an hour. I'm going to fall into the next category. I'm quite often checking my email. All right, and then somebody, come on, be honest. There it is. All right, pretty much everybody has an email account, and most people are on it all day long. So we think about, right? Oh, as a brewery, no brainer, we need social media. You do need social media, but no brainer did you think I need to start being where people are at all the time. We know this is probably not news to anybody. Email usage by age, right? 15 to 24, 25 years of brewery consumers, right? 93%, 90%. People are far more likely to open your email than engage with your social media. Again, this is not anti-social media, but I want to talk about engaging. Opening an email is engaging. It's like, what's happening over here? I'm going to check this out. Compared to email engagement, most social media falls flat, right? Social media engagement, less than 1% if we talk about actually engaging with your post. Email open rate, 22% of people are going to open up your email. It is your most effective marketing tool. Click-throughs, 3.7%. So somebody clicked a button and did something on your email. Also, there's no algorithm to filter your message. There's no algorithm, no Instagram or Facebook algorithm preventing people from seeing your stuff. You know when you send an email, you can get direct to their inbox and you'll know that they'll see it. I would also suggest visually, we live in a visual world, an email is a very uncluttered viewing space, right? They're just lined up, it's going to be in bold, right? And you're going to see that email space. I'm sorry, you're going to see that email with a headline, Young Lion. They're having an Oktoberfest this weekend, and then in most email clients, you do a secondary topic. Throw in the word Swiftwater, it's a collaboration. Look at how much information I got out of that right there without even opening up the email. How much brand awareness I got out of that. And news, there's an event coming up, something I can go to, and oh cool, they collaborated with Swiftwater, right? It's just in the subject line. Email analytics. You can see how many people open your email. Most email services have a dashboard, right? So here's a November campaign for a brewery client. Look at the freaking open rate there. I can see that it went to 430 recipients, the list grew, you can see here, 29, 29, 30, 31. 51%, 58%, over 200 people saw these emails and noticed, we'll talk about this in a second, 4, 11, 18, 23, once a week. They know it's coming and they open that email every single week. And if you really want to know who your best customers are, it tells you who opened it, their email address anyhow, and you see this member rating. This person right here is a 5-star member. That means they open up every single email. This person maybe not so much. But that can be valuable information. You're not really creeping on somebody, but to know specifically if you can identify who that ideal customer is who's very engaged, that can be helpful. However, key takeaway, it's easy to make bad emails. It's easy. It takes some effort to make an email that people care about, right? I'm going to give you some bullet points, right? But I'll go through an example. So I try not to load you up with bullet points, but here's a bunch of them, all right? And you can take a picture or you can download this slideshow afterwards. I'll show you an example in 1 second of each of these. How to make what I say effective emails that people care about, that they want to read, that they're going to come back to. They have to be interesting. They have to be engaging. Make them highly visual. Make a visual for every message. Make them skimmable. Short headlines, short text. Authentic photos from your brewery, which we'll talk about in a second. New or timely info. There should be new stuff happening at your brewery. Give them something to do. Give them a task or an action item, something to click on, somewhere to go, an event to attend. Always collect new email addresses. Grow your list. And do it at least twice a month, if not more often, at a consistent date and time. All right, let's walk through Derek and Kristen, we're going to show your email. Is that all right? Okay, this was actually last week. So let's talk about what's so good about this. All right, St. Patrick's Day. So this is scroll down, okay? So we're going to scroll down through. This is the top of the email. Celebrate with us, right? So if you, as a brewery owner or your team member, if you can get pictures of you guys in there, people love that. People love seeing the owner. People love seeing the team. So big photograph of the team. Merch, right? Low inventory, just a few shirts left. So there's some merch that's happening. Pizza of the month. Remember we talked about visuals? Who doesn't want to eat that pizza? It's a Reuben pizza. That looks awesome. How about some video? Let's put some video in our newsletter. Right? So this is Bobby's Baltic Porter and Reuben pizza pairing video. So I can click through now. Now I've got a button I can click on. We talk about giving people something to do, right? Trucking off to Albany from last year. So we told the mailing list that Derek and Kristen are heading back to Albany for the NYSBA conference. Sunday Pitch League. One Sunday left. Live music. Upcoming live music. We were in the news. Peter Butterbeer was in the Syracuse newspaper and website. And then every week, because dogs are a really big part of the Lunkenheimer brand, Hey Ozzy, we feature a dog, and we get those pictures because we ask people to send us your dog's picture. So every week new dog pictures show up, and people actually say, could you put my dog in? So now you're giving people something to click on, ask them to send you a picture, which they do, and then you're showing them their dog, and then they forward it and they show all their friends, and then their friends see that button right there. Pretty cool. We grow that list. All right, so there's a for instance. So again, you can download this slideshow afterwards, Chloe, right?
You can email it to them.
Okay, great.
You get your contact info.
Okay, great. Visuals, skimmable, authentic photos of you and your team especially, new or timely info, give your people something to do, always collect new email addresses, and do it on a schedule. All right? So that's our first tactic. Everybody should really think about their newsletter. If you're not doing one, start one. If you're doing one, do it better. All right, next tactic. Any questions on that?
I'm making a newsletter right now.
What's that?
I'm making a newsletter right now.
Yes.
They are so important.
I have a question.
Yes.
How often is a good time to send out a newsletter? Once a week? Or
Once a week is awesome.
Once a week.
Is awesome. And you know, once you set up your template, it's not that hard to do. It also forces you to think about, hey, we got that newsletter going on every week. We need to make sure we have content to put in it, and it makes you think of things to do. The events, a beer release. Really, you know, it forces you to think about what can we do. And if you struggle to think, gosh, I don't know what to put in my newsletter, maybe you're not doing enough. Maybe you don't have enough stuff going on. But once a week is great if you can do it. If not, at least twice a month. Yes?
What's the best way to check or get email addresses? Like, is it wrong to take credit card info? Like, some customers get an email and be like, I didn't want this.
Yes.
Or do I ask them as they check out?
So by email law, so to speak, so I use MailChimp a lot of the times. They tell you if we find out that you're using addresses that people didn't put in themselves, we're gonna like shut you down, right? So technically you're not supposed to. Do a lot of breweries collect, say, from somebody who bought merch or bought something online? They absolutely do. And I can tell you, typically when that happens, people typically don't unsubscribe. They bought merch from you or whatever, they went to your event, they bought something online, they care about you. Can you manually add that address? I know a lot of brewers that do. Technically, you're not supposed to. Don't buy a list. Don't ever buy a list. If your email client sees you suddenly add 400 addresses, they're gonna maybe take a look at that and find out where did these come from. But people sell lists or people share lists sometimes. That's really not cool either. If somebody gives you their email address, that's really, they're trusting you with it, so you want to be careful. You certainly don't want to share it with somebody else, nor do you want to import somebody else's database. You really should do the hard work of collecting them individually, and it takes time, but there are different ways you can do that as well.
I share what I've done recently.
Yes.
So, we changed our point of sale system, and we implemented like a small rewards system to go along with it, and to increase our emails in 3.5 weeks by 45%.
Great,
Because it just asks if you want
yeah,
to earn rewards, we need your email.
right. And right, there are some clients have opt-in functions, right?
Yeah.
Click
You can
here,
just bypass
or
it.
you can opt out, yeah, all that stuff, yeah,
Literally 45%.
yeah. Morgan?
How do you avoid your newsletter getting into spam?
Typically, if it's going out through a reliable email client, Constant Contact, MailChimp, it's going to recognize that. The algorithm is going to see that, and it's going to get through, but you can also look at your analytics and you can see if something's up. It'll tell you what bounced, what didn't go through, what was rejected. But typically, the technology is sophisticated enough that it's going to get through if it's going out through reliable. If you don't use the email server and you send out an email with 28 people on it or 100 people on it, that's really not a good idea either. That is not going to work. So you want to use an email client, a Constant Contact, or MailChimp.
Just a suggestion, like if you do an Eventbrite type of thing, where
Eventbrite.
people sign up and come to your brewery, these email clients allow you to
Yes.
report that list, and if you have a loyalty program in your
There
brewery,
you
people
go.
sign up on your point of sale, that's another good way
There you
to
go. Thank you.
get it.
Who else? Anyone else has unique ways of collecting addresses?
We have a QR code actually on
QR
our
code.
tap
Perfect.
list.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
We have one on the website, you can sign up on the website.
There you go. Great.
access to Wi-Fi. I've heard that you can require that they put their whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You
Right.
can have a statement in there that says we only use it for communication. with
That's
you,"
right.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So a lot of ways to collect address. If they're in your space, if they're in your tap room, they're probably not going to be terribly annoyed if they get your newsletter, and they can always opt out. All right, let's move on to, I know everybody here takes photos. I know you, and I know we've all got social media. I want to talk about how to take photos, publish photos that stand apart from everybody else's, and I'll talk about some simple techniques to take photos that look a little bit different, right? You always want to differentiate your brewery. Your imagery, your visual brand is one way to do that. Let's take photos that look a little bit different. Again, let's do, I'll do a data dump and then I'll show you visuals, okay? And we'll just run through these real quick. Get up close and personal. Capture authentic moments. People don't have to be looking at the camera. That's a big one. That's a big one. Shoot from a unique angle. Show fun stuff at your brewery. Put your subject off-center. Make the background blurry. Show off your logo. Put your beer in a unique setting. That one's fun. Celebrate and show off your team. Super valuable. And consider upgrading to an SLR camera as opposed to a smartphone. But smartphones are awesome. Camera technology is wild these days. Get up close and personal. This is probably the most impactful change that you can make, and sometimes it's the hardest one to do. Now, I took this photograph with an SLR camera, right, with a lens on it, right? Not an expensive one, I'll show you at the end. And it allows you to get a little bit further away from your subject, but if you don't have one, you literally want to walk up to Pearson and say, hey, can I take your picture? No. And you need to do this. You need to get this close to get that to happen, but guess what? Because that's kind of awkward to do, and not everybody has an SLR camera to keep their distance, people don't do it. So you get so many brewery pictures with like, everybody's like 10 feet away. It's not very impactful. I look at that and I'm like, wow, that's a really cool picture. Right? You can see the facial expression, right? Kind of feel that emotion.
Hey.
Was he here? There he is! There he is! Mike, how you doing? This is a fresh picture. It was last Saturday. He had sunglasses on. I didn't recognize you there. The beard should have given it away.
I'm inside now.
How about this guy? Is this guy here? Who's that? Anybody know him? From Bright Vibes? Up close and personal, right? Like handsome, you see a handsome guy with a beard, like this guy right here in the front. But you want to get, that is a picture that stands out. I can tell you if you're scrolling through your Instagram feed, because it's not like the others, it stands apart. So get up close and personal. Capture authentic moments, right? So this is when nobody knows you're taking their picture. Again, it's a little bit easier if you have an SLR. You have got to be right in their face. If you don't, it's literally getting up close to somebody and not announcing that you're taking a picture, but take a picture of the moment. These people had no idea their picture was being taken. But isn't that lovely? Right? That feels nice. You can tell they're having a blast. They're not posing for the camera, right? They're just having fun, like kind of over the shoulder, right? And it doesn't feel like a staged photograph. So you want to aspire to not take photographs that look like they're staged. When people aren't looking at the camera, same as the previous one, if they're not looking at the camera, again, that's just a signal that they probably didn't know you were even taking their picture, and it feels real. You're kind of like a fly on the wall. Yeah, here we have the guys know their picture's being taken, and the ladies were having so much fun they did a high five and they didn't care the picture was being taken. That's much more interesting. I actually have this photo of all four of them smiling at the camera, and it's a nice photo. That's a really cool photo, though. You have to make that happen, though. You have to make that happen as the person with the camera. You kind of have to work at that, but you learn how to do it. It's kind of a skill. Find unique spaces on your property, right? This is probably not like the obvious place you would think to take a picture. But it's picnic table, kind of tucked off on the side, nobody else is there, everybody else is over here, there's 1,000 people. Quiet table for 4 over here. Get down low, flowers in the foreground, out of focus in the background. That's cool, right? That's an intimate photograph. Show fun stuff at your brewery. There he is again. That's your daughter. Your daughter, say it, right? Take pictures of fun stuff, right? If you've got stuff happening, here's Brewbag, Scott's Brewbag right here, Brewbag Leagues. Go out and get photographs. There's Brewbag at Prison City. go out and get pictures of people doing stuff. And then share them on your social media. Fleur-de-lis, golf disc. Take pictures from unique angles. I happen to be tall, and I figured out over time, if I look back through all the photos I take over the years, I have a lot of photos where I'm down really low because I'm so tall, but it actually lends. You wouldn't typically take a picture from here. You get down underneath, and you've got the pizza box in the foreground. Person is, we talked about not putting the person dead center, so the person is to the right. Background is out of focus. Same with this guy here, right? Typically, you would stand and it would be eye level. What happens if you get a little bit lower and shoot up into it? I'll send you the slideshow because these examples are, I know that they're hard to remember, but you can use this as kind of a reference library if you like what you see. Again, shoot from a unique angle. Speaking the obvious, but how often do people not take the time to, hey, just move over a little bit? If you move over a little bit, I can get that logo on your shirt, right? Again, you have to be intentional about this stuff. You have to go out of your way to do it. Could you turn that glass a little bit? I want to get the logo. Also, what I don't like, what don't I like about this photograph? If I could do it over. Got it. Is it dirty? I would fill it up, Chris. I would fill it up. Try to get full pores. And then this is fun. Put your beer in a unique setting. We've shot those Lunkenheimer cans all over the place. On the boat, kayaking, Adirondacks. So take your beer with you. Didn't mean to go past it. I'm sorry. Take your beer with you and put it places. Again, it's hard to come up with all this content. It's a lot of work. So these are all ideas of stuff you can do. Put stuff out of focus. That's kind of a classic Instagram technique, but get a big, beautiful pour, a nice head on it, colorful, and then hold it forward and make it soft focus in the back. It's kind of a neat technique. You can see it over and over again. There it is. The last one here I think is really the most important is show off your team. Celebrate your team, whether you're the owner or the founder or just, brewers, your bartenders. Get pictures, man. People love, we see that in the click-throughs. People love to see photos of people. I probably should have said that. Photos of people is incredibly important. Photos of people, but photos of people who work there. And again, you can see all of these. These are up close. These are people, here's Derek Hart at work. These are people like doing stuff. People love to see how beer is made. They love to see behind the scenes. All right, great. I'm going to go to number 3, but before I do, does anybody else have questions about how to take better photographs? Last slide, which I don't have here. I have an SLR camera. It's an Olympus. Go to Amazon. Your $600 or $700 real camera, so to speak, these days, no matter what brand it is, night and day in terms of the quality of your photographs. So for a $600 or $700 investment, you'll get like really incredible photographs that you really can't get on your smartphone.
Hey Glenn,
Yes.
like when you take do you have to tell people if you're gonna post the pictures publicly?
Great question. Shouldn't ask me that in front of a crowd.
We're a consent state.
We are, go, Pearson, please.
No,
I'm
I'm sorry.
What does that mean?
So if someone takes your picture, I think you are please correct me here. I've only heard this from some folks who work at the state. But if your picture is taken, there is some automatic consent involved. I think it's best to always grab somebody's permission. I don't need to jump in on you.
No, please.
Blurt that
Talk
out.
to me
I
now.
just heard it the other night, so.
Yeah.
When I take pictures of people, I always say like, we're doing this, it's going to be here and seen by, 12 people.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I do. I always ask permission.
Yeah, you asked me, you said, mind if I take your picture?
I did, yeah.
Sure, I answered that.
That's right, I said that, I gotta get this. And people are always into it, but more importantly, from a legal point of view, so again, I'm speaking, people have an understanding that with social media, it's really common for your picture to show up places. If a lawyer were standing here, he might have a different take on that. That could be a valid take. So you kind of want to proceed with caution. You do want to get permission. You don't want somebody to call up and say, "Oh my gosh, why did you put that up there? You know, I didn't know you were taking my picture." You know, or I broke up with that guy 3 months ago. Why did you put his picture up there? Right? Things can happen. So you do want to be careful about that. So I don't have a legal answer, but
I have one thing
yes.
to add to it. You could do this at your brewery for all of our events. We do it at NYSBA. You put a photo consent sign on your door that says basically any photography taken within this building can be used by us in our marketing materials. And people don't read it, but it does cover you.
Scott?
The consent form on the leagues that I do, so anyone that signs up to participate, they need to consent to it. Interesting.
Great. Cool. All right. We'll move on to the third one here. Let me ask you a question. And there's an obvious answer, there's not so obvious answer. What business are you in? What business is everybody in here in this room?
Making people happy.
Somebody said it.
Making people happy.
There you go. Right? Great beer is not always a differentiator. A lot of people make great beer. You need to find other ways to get people to come back. And I'm going to lead into, Pearson's going to follow up here. I would say you're in the business of building close relationships, right? You're in the people business. You're in the business of helping people make memories. But most importantly, and this does not always happen, I can tell you as a consumer, you're in the business of making people feel great when they visit your tap room. And as this industry, it's obviously it's super competitive, but the breweries that make people feel like heroes when they walk in the door, they're going to be around. And that's not always the case. And so my third thought, and I'll turn it over to Pearson. Will Guidara, there's a book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and it is what you think it is. Practice unreasonable hospitality. Do the hard work that it takes day to day to make people feel super fantastic when they walk in. I'll also add to this, that doesn't happen if you as a brewery owner or you as a taproom server, if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. It needs to be part of your culture. People need to understand when you hire them, we practice unreasonable hospitality here. So I will stop talking. Pearson, you can talk about guest experience and such.
Yep. I don't speak as loud as Glenn, so I think I'll probably just stand here. If I can move this as when we talked, I wanted to kind of change a few things that I wanted to bring up, but I'm grateful to Glenn. That's exceptional. If I could echo the email piece, we've seen enormous click-through rates on our email as we've altered how we present it. We used to be a couple times a week, and now we're thinning that down a little bit. And the open rate of the email, that's the meat of the thing, right? And we're seeing that in the 40 to 50% spot. And we're very, very bullet point. We used to be text heavy, like the New York Times is, if you sign up for their emails, they're pretty text heavy on their cooking stuff. So you can go both ways, but pictures matter, and whatever you can do to engage your audience, it makes perfect sense. So grateful to be here. I'm compelled to share some ideas and concepts because I care deeply about the culture of craft beer and what all of you do very well. I certainly see our culture as something very unique to all of us. And I want to do my very small part to making sure it sustains for generations without becoming adulterated or homogenized. The work that all of us do, it matters. Not just from an economic impact. We're hiring local craftspeople. We build small to mid-sized manufacturing plants in these towns, but we're also building an iconic landmark destination for our communities. and of course, making an outstanding product. My work has provided me a significant amount of travel, and I can tell you with certainty that the world has been taking notice of our efforts here in our state and certainly across the nation. We have set a new tradition of beer culture. People are really taking notice. And I just read a book about alchemy where they were talking about American craft beer. It was written by a British ad agent at Ogilvy. So like Chloe had said at the outset, I have extensive marketing experience. I've dedicated my career to building, creating, and marketing experiences. I currently work for Brown's Brewing Company as Director of Brand Marketing and Sales. It's a kind of a unique role I've been in for a few years. I get to collaborate with both production end and R&D end of the brew house. I bring back what I learned from the market, and we make products that we feel aligns with our global brand, and then bring them to market. And again, that alignment with who we are, how we see our place in the world, and what that looks like on the shelves and to the consumers. I also spend a lot of time collaborating and under the direction of the ownership, what that internal taproom experience is like. We have two, and the company's been around for 30 years, so they do a lot of things right, and we continually augment how we express that. But prior to that work, I was a professional musician, and that's how I fell in love with craft beer, because what are you gonna do? You know, you're in a new town, and that excitement of that product and that place that we're going into, it just made sense to me. But through those 20 years of being a musician, times got slow, so I worked for an art company out of San Francisco where we did a lot of photography. We captured the best moments of people's lives, and we were acquired for our e-commerce platform. So if you have questions about all that, I'm certainly willing to answer that. We were acquired by The Gap. And then I joined Red Bull in a marketing capacity. I still moonlight for ad agencies, copywriting, and composing music for CNN, Discovery Channel properties, and History Channel. So my perspective is I've been able to develop a pretty empathic sensibility to allows me to express the experience of brands, whether you go to a place or not. But it's pretty clear what makes most sense to me and how to separate your brand from the distortion field of competition. And it's take time to build a whole experience approach to shipping the work of your brand. And it's to your staff, not only the audience. It begins with your story. It's not just the liquid that you've produced or the food you serve to wash down your beer, but the why, the what that drove you to live your life around the creation of your product. Are you able to clearly convey that story? Do you know what it is? Does that story that you have align with your brand, align with your core values, your company ethos? And does your staff know it? Do they embody it? Does that inform the performance of their tasks within your operation? Are they able to integrate your story, those values, your company values within their own employee value proposition and personal propositions? So staff training is truly important. Not just having the right skills to execute the functionality of the tasks for which they were hired, but they should also be very well trained and aligned and informed on your story and on your origin. The story is the key to building and shaping the experience for the folks who are going out of their way to spend their precious time and discretionary money in your space. No matter what your contribution to the scene is, if you have a tap room, you operate a restaurant, or you ship beer to distribution, your story matters in developing that whole experience of your brand. So spend time to enrich your staff. That's an internal sales effort. Those are your people, and you have to get buy-in from them so that they can embody it. On all of your concepts, your new brands, your new releases, if you're doing a directive ship or rebranding, provide a sense of belonging to them, and they will feel more connected to what you're doing and to your operation. It's the fabric of your brand. These are key elements to not only lower the turnover rate, which we've all seen is pretty vast, but to provide these stakeholders a sense of being a part of something, a sense of reliance, an increased sense of purpose on the mission that is working for your company. You've spent a lot of time building your business and the foundation and refining the liquid and the build out of your brew house and how you want your tap room to look, the location where your space is, and where you have planted your flag and your style expression. Even the name of your brewery matters, right? The name of your beers should align with that. And the experience of drinking that liquid and how they're presented on the shelves all have to align. That's that expression that is the key element to building a whole experience of marketing your brand. And that experience guides the culture of craft beer, the culture of what the folks are breaking their routines to go visit you instead of you or you. That's a heavy thing, to have somebody choose to spend their evening with you when there's so many opportunities to go spend a few bucks and go spend that precious few hours. It's a powerful behavior. And so when you develop your following and you are expressing your brand that's making a connection, that is a very powerful tool. If folks are swept away and captivated by your world when they get in your doors and your brand and your company and what you have to offer, it's a valuable marketing asset. They will become your greatest marketing advocates. And they're eager to share what they've experienced. And they'll take your products home and they'll share them with their networks and return again and again. Glenn touched on returning customers. Customer acquisition is very expensive, we all know that. But selling each and every individual on the experience of your place, it's very easy to hook them, you know? And if we all have a consistent cultural expression, we'll hook everybody and we'll maintain that our culture of craft beer, the experience of this very unique thing that we do so well. And I've been to a few of your breweries and I could point out examples, which I'll gladly do if there's any questions, but I feel compelled to say that it's the staff training. They're the gatekeepers. And it's not just your front of house staff, it's everyone who works in your operation. Marketing, branding, behind the line, if you have a food operation, if you hire food trucks, everything should be one singular mindset on your brand, your focus throughout your experience, or expression of your experience, pardon me. So that's really what I have to say, is protecting the culture. And you'll see a boatload of return business. But I'm happy to answer questions, as I think we'll do that now.
All right.
So thank you very much. Well,
All right, we got a few minutes. Questions? Anybody have questions?
Can you talk a little bit about easy ways to like create brand consistency, or like I've noticed in a lot of advertising, so like across industries, like people have a certain look that they go to time and time again. Do you have any like strategies or ways to communicate that with staff and team about like a digestible way to keep things consistent?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I can answer real quick. Does this matter if I talk into here? So I think having a beer after a shift is the first thing, right? That's a great way to communicate that. It allows alignment between you as the owner and the operator to connect, to make a direct connection, to give that person a sense of what they are a part of. And again, it's your story, so why are you doing what you're doing, right? The what drove you to live your life around crafting this product, and how do you want your labels presented, right? And so all of that should matter. Like, use the example of, say, like Flying Dog, right? I've been to Flying Dog when they had a tap room open, but I fell in love with their beer long before I ever visited their tap room, just because I was attracted to the Stedman labels and certainly the product. And then going to that tap room, it was the full embodiment of what I was attracted to through those labels. And then I was intoxicated, but I mean, it didn't matter. And I've gone to that place many, many times, and the tour experience was dynamic. So, but it's making, once you clearly refined your story and, your origin, right? And what inspired you to do what you do, and if you can convey that to your people, it just becomes routine for them to be able to express it to the customers.
Do you have a brewery?
I work at Wolf Hollow Brewing.
Okay, yeah. And what is your, how do you, tell me if you had to describe it to me. Hey, on your way home, you want to stop by Wolf Hollow because, what would that because be?
I would say not only do we have a variety of beers that are delicious. It is a family-oriented environment that has not only a great tap room and a place to hang out, but also a wonderful outdoor experience as well.
It's great. Could all of your, could everybody on the team do what you just did?
I'm not sure.
So to answer your question, I use the word deliberate a lot. If what you want to happen should be happening, but it won't happen unless you actually are deliberate and communicate that to others. More importantly, a lot of people come to seminars and conferences and all that, and they leave and they're super energized, and then they go back to work and they get really busy, and right, that all falls apart. If you're not deliberate about building a system for consistency, it won't happen. And marketing and branding is kind of easy to get pushed aside. It's why a lot of breweries fall down in terms of having a consistent brand that people can repeat and tell to others. From just a tactical graphic design point of view, I would encourage you to give that to a single person or outsource that to a single person and have one voice creating that stuff over and over again. If you're passing that around or you have different people do your labels all the time, you're gonna get a ton of variety. If you're looking for consistency, you're not gonna get that. So figure out what you're all about, document that, and then more importantly, you gotta work on it, like all the time, to keep it as clean as it is. Who else has a question?
Well, this is not really a question, but I do want to kind of just make a side note.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about looking at your contact list, their star rating, or open rate, and things like that. I just want to make kind of a side mention that even the preview subject line, like a lot of us are getting those pop-up notifications on our phone of a preview of an email, and even if somebody doesn't necessarily open that email, that information is still getting to them based on those first two lines. Put in there.
Yep, and we saw that with the Young Lion in their preview. It said Oktoberfest is the main subject, and then the next word was collaborating with Swiftwater, right? So
People don't even necessarily need to open.
that's right. Just a subject line can be a really important. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
it still is useful. You're reaching more people than even, that open rate.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else have ideas, or what are you guys doing that's working for you in terms of marketing? Anyone?
Customers text me photos in the air with their beer.
Bingo. They text you photos, and they say, please publish these.
Then they just say, here you go, they know I can use that.
That's great. That is the most authentic kind of content, right? It comes from your customers.
Piggybacking off of that, we developed a hashtag. People can specifically do that we go regular check on as well, so that we can see their photos.
Yeah. Super. Thank you.
Hey,
Chuck.
Sorry, what was your name?
Chris.
No, yeah, thanks.
I'm Pearson.
Pearson?
Pearson.
Pearson?
Yeah.
So you use the word craft. So what I'm struggling with right now is the literal term craft has, a unique meaning. Like it's somebody who can make something with their hands. It's a very individualistic thing. The word craft has become so, what's the word I'm looking for? Omnipresent. So I almost feel like as a craft producer, using the word craft is kind of almost getting into that bulk bin of being diluted and selling out kind of thing. But so how do you use the word craft and still have the message of uniqueness?
That's a debatable question, right? So I use the word craft because I've, seen it at the Brewers Association, right? We are craft producers. We're not macro producers necessarily. I think the definition is, about our barrelage. But granted, with 10,000 small producers across our country and all of the people that work for them, I think we're bursting the bubble on what we can safely and reasonably define as a craft artisanal product.
So what came to mind was you say you're a musician, and then you're into like Brown's Brewery, but then you get into more of the commercial side of things.
Yeah.
But when you said that to me, you have, because you're a musician, because you use your hands, or whatever, what instrument do you play?
I use my hands. I play piano. No, I know what you're saying.
But the point is when you say that to me, you can relate to craft. So you can appreciate craft. So when you talk about Brown's Brewery and you talk about, what you see there, your interpretation of what you see is because you're a craftsman yourself. So how do you convey that to the community of people that do like craft beer, that they can maybe, somehow know the difference between Budweiser and a local brewery, but
Okay.
telling them it's craft, does that mean anything? And how do you make that mean something? Like, you literally take the Western definition and say, this is craft.
Yeah, I mean, it is nebulous, right? What is craft? Because they come to Brown's Balloon Factory and there's massive machines there that were purchased from Magic Hat when they were acquired by NAB. So I see your point. We also have a smaller production facility in the same building, and that seems to be more the craft end, whereas we're making 50 to 70 barrel batches on the one end so that we can support our Hannaford footprint across a couple of states, and Chopper and Whole Foods. And so we are in that. We're certainly not a macro beer by any imagination. We don't even sell close to 1 million cans a year, right? So that's hard to define, right? But we're still making something by hand. And there's such a lack of automation.
Yeah, that's not so much specifically saying, how do you convey that to the consumer
I
and
think
marketing?
they come into our space, and they see that it is a 200-year-old facility. Not that everyone has that benefit of having an old place, but it really truly is.
Sorry, can I just add on
Yeah,
to this?
thank you.
What materials do you start to, not start, you've been using for a while, to differentiate is independent
Yep.
as opposed to craft? That's just a comment that I want to mention.
Yeah, that's great.
Question
I-
of fun.
I think local beer speaks a lot to that as well. If you go to airport, right, I would say, what do you got for local beer? And you're saying craft beer, but you're actually getting, what you're really after is what was made within, 20 miles of here.
Yeah. That's a much better explanation than
Yeah, it's just something that's been going on in my mind lately.
That's a great talking point. I think you're right. We should redefine.
It's not even redefine it, like how do you convey it as for what it really is without it becoming diluted?
I've never been to a Budweiser tap room, so there's that.
Yes.
I did have a question. So, what would be your suggestion when entities you worked with show your event after the fact? When you ask them, like you partnered with them with the idea of them promoting, and then they don't post about it or they don't put it in their messaging document, then everyone's seeing the comments that their audience is like, how can you let us know? Like, do you have suggestions as to how to avoid that? All the steps you take ahead of time didn't get you.
That's a great question. So right, you partner with somebody and you may go into with the assumption that they're going to be as excited about it as you are, and they're going to do all the things that you're going to do in social media promotion and all that. If you don't get that, establish that clearly up front, maybe in writing. Yeah. And also not just a matter of contractual, but sit down, have a beer, have a conversation. Hey, here's all the stuff that I'm going to be doing. This event means so much to me. Let me show you what I'm doing. Can I count on you to do some of these things as well? Yeah, and we will. Tell me about that, right? And have them like get into it with you. And
something where it's like, now I have to use a bit of leverage, they want us to work with them again, and like, well, we're not going to unless you bill what you said with the person.
yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to-
No, that's no.
So I have a question. You were talking about getting the marketing out via email. I know we've gone very digital, but what about going back to mass mailing? That's been coming from conversations. More recently, I've been hearing a lot more of that coming back. And what are your thoughts on doing something with mass mailing?
So postcards, direct mailing postcards, holy cow, nobody does that anymore. What a way to stand out, right? Very expensive. That can be very effective. If you know your local audience and you've got addresses, right, it can be very effective because nobody does it anymore. So old school postcards, Maureen.
USPS has a service called Every Door Direct Mail where you can hit every single door in an immediate area, and which is relatively affordable, and you don't have to go look for the addresses themselves. It's just serviced through the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah. Great, yeah. I think we're running out of time. Any last thoughts or questions? If anybody wants my slides, you can email me here, you can call or text me here. My newsletter, you can get that at threethingseverythursday.com. And you can subscribe to my content if you'd like. Pearson, thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.